There is something pulsing beneath your thoughts right now, not a new thing, not something that arrived recently, something that has been there for as long as you can remember, quiet and persistent, like a signal running on a frequency just slightly below the threshold of your conscious attention. You have felt it. You have almost named it. And then the noise of your own mind rose up and drowned it out again. And you kept moving. You kept reacting. You kept doing what the mind does, which is explain, categorize, dismiss, and move on. But the signal kept pulsing. It has never stopped. This is not about a message from somewhere out there. This is not about beings in the sky sending transmissions across the galaxy to land in your inbox. This is about something far more confrontational than that. This is about the signal you have been sitting on top of your entire life. The one you have been avoiding with your attention. The one that only becomes visible the moment you stop reacting and start watching. And the reason it has been invisible is not because it is hidden. It is because you have never fully turned your gaze toward it. You have looked around it. You have looked past it. You have looked everywhere except directly at it, because something in you already senses what happens when you do. Something in you already knows that the moment you look at this signal clearly, the moment you stop explaining it away and simply watch it, everything changes. Not in some vague metaphorical sense, in a measurable, immediate, irreversible sense. What you observe at the most fundamental level of reality, you change. And what you have been avoiding observing has been running your life from the shadows. Today, you look. There is a particular quality to the moment when something you have been carrying for years is finally seen clearly. Not described to you, not handed to you as a concept. Seen. There is a stillness that drops over you in that moment, a kind of veil lifting in reverse, where something that was always present suddenly becomes undeniable. You have had flashes of this. You know the feeling, a dream you could not quite shake, an emotion that rose in your chest for no apparent reason while you were standing somewhere ordinary, doing something unremarkable, and the feeling was enormous and specific and carried a weight that the moment itself could not account for. A pull toward the night sky that felt less like curiosity and more like recognition. A sense, persistent and quiet and impossible to fully explain, that something deeper is happening beneath the surface of your life than the surface of your life can contain. These are not random, and they are not symptoms of an overactive imagination. They are contact points, moments where the signal broke through the density of your habitual attention and touched something real inside you, something ancient, something that has been waiting for exactly this moment to be recognized. Not believed in, not hoped for, recognized. Because recognition is different from belief. Belief is what the mind does when it cannot see clearly. Recognition is what consciousness does when it finally looks directly at what was always there. And here is where the quantum mechanics become relevant. Here is where this stops being philosophy and starts being measurable. The observer effect is one of the most documented and least understood phenomena in modern physics. When physicists observe a quantum particle, the act of observation itself collapses the particle from a wave of probability into a specific, definite state. Before observation, the particle exists as a superposition of all possible positions, all possible states, all possible versions of itself simultaneously. The moment it is observed, it becomes one thing. One specific, definite thing. The act of looking is what determines what appears. This is not a metaphor. This is not a spiritual teaching dressed up in scientific language. This is what the mathematics actually describes. What you observe, you collapse into form. What you do not observe remains in superposition, a cloud of possibility that has no fixed shape, no fixed location, no fixed reality. It is simply potential, waiting. And here's the part that most people miss entirely when they hear about the observer effect. The thing that remains unobserved does not disappear. It does not become neutral. It continues to influence the system from its state of superposition. It continues to shape outcomes. It continues to generate effects without ever being pinned down, without ever being seen clearly, without ever being brought into the full light of conscious observation. Look closer. What you are avoiding looking at in your own life is not dormant. It is not waiting quietly in some corner of your psyche, harmless and contained. It is in superposition. It is everywhere in your experience simultaneously, shaping your decisions, coloring your perceptions, generating emotional responses that seem to come from nowhere, pulling you towards certain patterns and away from others, running your reality from a state you have never directly observed. And the reason it has this power is precisely because you have not looked at it. The moment you look at it, the moment you bring the full quality of your conscious attention directly to it, it collapses. It becomes one specific thing instead of an invisible force operating everywhere at once. And a specific thing can be seen. A specific thing can be understood. A specific thing loses the diffuse ambient power it had when it was everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. That is not belief. That is quantum mechanics. Now watch what happens when you apply this to the signal you have been carrying. The signal that has been pulsing beneath your thoughts for as long as you can remember has been operating in superposition. You have felt it. You have almost named it. But you have never looked at it directly. You have never brought the full, unflinching quality of your conscious attention to it and simply watched. And so it has been everywhere in your experience, shaping everything from the shadows, powerful precisely because it has never been fully observed. It has been the unnamed thing behind your unexplainable longings. It has been the source of that persistent sense that something fundamental is missing from the world as it is currently constructed. It has been the thing that makes you feel homesick for a place you cannot name. And the Arcturian message, the transmission that has been encoded in the fabric of your experience since before you can remember, is not separate from this signal. It is this signal. It is the frequency of your own deepest nature pressing against the walls of your habitual attention, asking to be recognized, asking to be seen, asking you to stop explaining it away and simply, finally, look. If this transmission is landing somewhere real in you, subscribe to this channel and like this video so more of this work can reach the people who are ready to receive it. Now let us go deeper into what this actually means. Let us look at the mechanics of how a transmission like this works, why it arrives the way it does, and what happens inside your consciousness the moment you stop looking for it out there and recognize that it has been living in here the entire time. Here's what no one tells you about communication from higher dimensional intelligence. It does not arrive the way the human mind expects communication to arrive. The mind wants language. It wants clear, translatable, logical data. It can hold up to the light and examine and file away in the appropriate drawer of its carefully organized understanding. And so most people spend their entire lives waiting for the message to show up in a format the mind can process. while the actual transmission has already been running through their emotional body, their dream state, their nervous system, and their deepest instincts for years, decades, perhaps an entire lifetime. Higher dimensional intelligence does not communicate in words, it communicates in frequency, and your body has been receiving that frequency long before your mind ever thought to look for it. Let that land for a moment, really let it land. Because this changes everything about how you understand your own inner life. Every unexplainable feeling you have ever had, every moment of sudden knowing that arrived without evidence, every time you looked at the night sky and felt something pull at the center of your chest, as though you were remembering a place you have never been. Every time you woke from a dream carrying an emotion so vast and so specific that the ordinary world felt thin and insufficient in comparison. These were not random neurological events. These were not symptoms of an overactive imagination. These were contact points. Moments where the transmission broke through the density of your waking mind and touched something real inside you. And the key word is density. Because the reason most people never receive the signal consciously is not that the signal is faint. It is that the perceptual field through which human awareness operates has been extraordinarily dense. Dense with conditioning. Dense with the noise of constant reaction. Dense with the accumulated weight of a mind that has been trained since childhood to explain everything, categorize everything, dismiss everything that does not fit the narrow bandwidth of consensus reality. And within that density, the transmission could not get through to the surface of conscious awareness. Not because it was not happening, because the receiver was not tuned. But look closer. The receiver is not your mind. The mind is not the receiver. The mind is the filter. And for most of human history, the filter has been so dense, so locked into the narrow frequency band of survival consciousness that the signal could not penetrate it. But the signal was always there, pressing, pulsing, waiting, and it found the only channels it could find. It came through your dreams, it came through your emotional body. It came through the inexplicable moments of recognition when something resonated at a frequency the mind could not explain, but the body understood immediately. It came through the persistent, quiet, unshakable sense that something more is happening here than the surface of your life reveals. That was not a malfunction. That was the transmission finding the cracks in the filter. And now something is shifting. Not just for you, for a critical mass of human consciousness simultaneously. There is a phenomenon occurring right now that does not fit neatly into any existing framework. People from vastly different cultures, different languages, different continents with no connection to one another are reporting the same inner experiences almost simultaneously. A sudden intensification of dream activity. Dreams that feel less like dreams and more like transmissions. Emotional waves that seem to come from nowhere and carry information that the rational mind cannot quite decode, but the body understands perfectly. A growing sense that time itself is behaving differently, not fast or exactly, not slower but thinner, as though the membrane between what is seen and what is felt is becoming more transparent by the day. And then there is the sky, the strange, almost irrational pull that so many people are feeling to look upward, not because they expect to see something, because something inside them responds to the stars, the way a tuning fork responds to its matching frequency. This is not mass delusion. This is not a cultural trend. This is coherence, a field of consciousness reaching a threshold at which dormant perceptual capacities begin to come online. And when this happens, the first thing most people notice is not clarity, it is confusion. Because the old signal is still running. The familiar broadcast of separation and linear time and the mind as the only valid instrument of knowing is still playing. But now there is something else bleeding through, another frequency, faint at first, intermittent, sometimes showing up as a feeling in the chest, sometimes as a flash of insight that vanishes before the mind can catch it, sometimes as a dream so vivid and so emotionally charged that it stays with you for days, hovering at the edge of comprehension, like a word you cannot quite remember but know you have spoken before. And sometimes it shows up as this, as words that feel less like information being delivered and more like memory being stirred. As a resonance that moves through you before the meaning has fully registered, because frequency does not wait for comprehension. It arrives in the body first, in the chest, in the throat, in the sudden, inexplicable moisture at the corners of your eyes when you hear something your mind cannot yet explain, but your deeper self has been waiting to hear for a very long time. This is the message, not a single transmission, not a one-time delivery, an ongoing frequency relationship between your consciousness and a source of intelligence that exists beyond the visible spectrum of human perception. Pause here. This is not a thought exercise, this is an observation. Close your eyes for a moment if you can do so safely. And instead of thinking about what you just heard, simply watch what is happening in your body right now. Do not analyze it. Do not try to name it. Just watch. Notice where there is movement. Notice where there is stillness. Notice if there is something in your chest that responded to something in these words before your mind had a chance to evaluate whether it should. Notice if there is a quality of recognition happening right now that is not the same as understanding. Recognition that comes before understanding. That is the body receiving the frequency. That is the transmission making contact at the layer beneath the filter. Stay there for a moment. Watch what you notice. Now open your eyes and look at what just happened. Because what you just did, that act of watching your own inner experience without immediately translating it into something the mind can categorize and dismiss, that is the observer state. That is the most powerful position available to you in this moment. Not because it gives you control, because it gives you clarity. And clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. What did you notice when you stopped reacting and simply watched? Drop it in the comments, the specific quality of what moved in your body, the texture of what you felt before the mind could name it. Your observation is not just yours. It is a data point in a collective field of seeing that is building right now. Let us go deeper into the mechanics of what you are actually carrying. The transmission that has been encoded in your experience, the signal that has been pulsing beneath your thoughts for as long as you can remember, is not a message in the conventional sense. It is not a set of instructions, it is not a prophecy, it is not a warning. It is something far more subtle and far more powerful than any of those things. It is a remembrance code, a frequency pattern that, when recognized, when truly seen rather than merely heard about, begins to reorganize your entire inner architecture. Your perception shifts. Your emotional body recalibrates, your nervous system starts operating from a different baseline, and the world you see with your eyes begins to look different. Not because the world changed, because you did. And the remembrance code carries a core pattern that is simple to state but profound to actually receive. You are not from here alone. Your consciousness did not originate solely within the biological framework of this particular incarnation. There is a broader field of intelligence that you are part of, that you have always been part of, and your sense of disconnection from that field is not a permanent condition. It is a temporary perceptual limitation, and it is beginning to dissolve. Now watch what happens in your mind when you hear that. The mind will try to evaluate it. It will want to know if it is true. It will want evidence. It will want a framework that makes it logically defensible. And that is fine. That is what the mind does. But watch something else simultaneously. Watch what happens in the part of you that is not the mind. Watch what happens in the body. Watch what happens in that quiet space beneath the constant commentary of thought. Because something there is not evaluating, something there already knows. And the knowing is not belief. It is recognition. It is the tuning fork responding to its matching frequency. Here is what the Arcturian transmission actually describes when it speaks of consciousness and its origins. The Arcturians, as a civilization, exist in what they describe as a higher dimensional octave of awareness. Not a physical location in the conventional sense, not a planet you could point to on a star chart and say, there, that is where they are, but a state of consciousness, a frequency band of awareness that operates at a level of coherence and clarity that is difficult for the human mind to fully comprehend from within its current perceptual limitations. And they describe their relationship to humanity not as watchers from a distance, but as a resonant field. A civilization whose primary form of communication is not language but coherence, not instruction but frequency, not information but the transmission of a quality of awareness that, when received, reorganizes the receiver. Think about what that actually means. The message is not something you decode with your intellect. The message is something you become capable of receiving as your own frequency rises. It is less like receiving a letter and more like tuning a radio. The content of the transmission is not separate from the act of receiving it. The act of truly receiving it is itself the content. Because what the Arcturian field transmits at its core is the frequency of clear seeing, the frequency of the observer state. The capacity to watch your own experience without being consumed by it, to witness reality without reacting to it, to hold the full weight of what is happening inside you without flinching away from any of it. And you already have this capacity. You were born with it. It is not something you need to acquire. It is something you need to stop avoiding. Let me show you something. Let me show you what it looks like when this capacity is buried, and what it looks like when it is finally seen. There was a man named Elias who spent 30 years building a life that looked, from the outside, exactly like what a life was supposed to look like. The right work, the right relationships, the right narrative about who he was and where he was going. And beneath all of it, pulsing quietly and persistently, was a signal he had never looked at directly. He had felt it. He had almost named it. And every time he came close to looking at it, something happened. The mind got busy. A problem appeared that needed solving. A distraction arrived that seemed urgent. And the signal went quiet again, not gone, just pushed below the threshold of his attention. And he kept moving. The signal showed up in his dreams as a vast open sky and a feeling of freedom so complete that waking up felt like a kind of grief. It showed up in his body as a tightness in the chest that no doctor could explain and no circumstance could account for. It showed up in his relationships as a persistent sense of distance, not from other people but from himself, as though he were watching his own life through glass, present but not fully there, engaged but not fully alive. And it showed up in the night when everything was quiet and the mind could not maintain its usual noise, as a knowing so clear and so uncomfortable that he would get up and find something to do rather than lie there and feel it. What he was avoiding looking at was not a problem. It was not a failure. It was not a wound. It was the signal itself. The transmission that had been encoded in the fabric of his experience since before he could remember, the frequency of his own deepest nature pressing against the walls of his habitual attention, asking to be recognized. And the reason he was avoiding it was not because it was painful. It was because he already sensed, at some level below conscious articulation, that the moment he looked at it directly, the moment he stopped explaining it away and simply watched, everything would have to change. Not in a catastrophic sense, in the sense that once you have seen something clearly, you cannot pretend you have not seen it. And he was not sure he was ready for what came after the seeing. One night, he stopped running. Not dramatically, not in a moment of crisis. He simply sat down in the quiet of his own house, in the ordinary dark, and instead of reaching for the phone or the television or any of the 1,000 small tools of avoidance that had served him so well for so long, he simply watched. He watched his own mind try to fill the silence. He watched the tightness in his chest. He watched the signal pulse. And for the first time in 30 years, he did not look away. What he saw was not what he had been afraid of. It was not chaos. It was not the unraveling of everything he had built. What he saw in the clear light of his own undefended attention was something so simple and so obvious that he almost laughed. He saw that the signal was not a problem to be solved. It was a frequency to be received. He saw that the tightness in his chest was not a symptom of something wrong. It was the pressure of something true trying to get through. He saw that the distance he had felt from himself for 30 years was not a permanent condition. It was the result of never having turned his gaze toward the thing that mattered most. He saw that the act of watching, the simple, unflinching, compassionate act of looking directly at what had always been there, was not a step toward transformation. It was the transformation itself. The moment he saw it, it changed. Not because he did anything, because he watched. And you have been both Elias and the signal. You have been the one who keeps moving and the thing that keeps pulsing. You have been the mind that explains it away and the deeper intelligence that keeps pressing through, and today you chose to look. That is not a small thing. That is the most important thing you can do with your attention. Let us go deeper into what happens at the quantum level when you make that choice. Here is the layer underneath what you just heard. The observer effect in quantum physics is not just a phenomenon that occurs at the subatomic scale. It is a principle that operates at every scale of reality. The reason physicists discovered it at the quantum level is that quantum systems are small enough and sensitive enough that the influence of observation becomes measurable. But the principle is universal. What you observe, you change. What you do not observe continues to operate in superposition, influencing your experience from a state you have never pinned down, never brought into the full light of conscious attention. Your thoughts operate this way, your beliefs operate this way, your emotional patterns operate this way, your identity itself operates this way. As long as you do not look at them directly, as long as you react to them rather than watching them, they remain in superposition, everywhere in your experience simultaneously, shaping everything from a position of never being seen, And the moment you bring the full quality of your conscious attention to any of these things, the moment you watch without reacting, without judging, without trying to fix or change or explain, something shifts. The superposition collapses. The diffuse, ambient power of the unobserved thing becomes a specific, definite thing. And a specific, definite thing can be seen. And what can be seen clearly loses its power to operate from the shadows. This is not philosophy. This is the mechanics of consciousness. And here is where the Arcturian transmission becomes precise. What the Arcturian field is transmitting, at its core, is not information. It is the frequency of the observer state itself. It is the quality of consciousness that watches without reacting, that sees without judging, that holds the full weight of what is present without flinching away from any of it. And the reason this transmission is so profoundly destabilizing to the habitual mind is that the habitual mind is built on reaction. The habitual mind is a reactor. It receives input and immediately responds. It categorizes, evaluates, judges, defends, attacks, avoids, explains. It is always in motion, always responding, always producing the next thought in response to the last one. And within that constant motion, the observer state is impossible, not difficult, impossible, because the observer is not a reactor. The observer watches the reactor. The observer is the awareness that sees the mind doing what the mind does without being the mind. And this is the thing you have been carrying since before you can remember. Not the noise of the mind, the awareness that watches the noise, the signal beneath the thoughts, the presence that is there in the space between reactions. The quality of consciousness that has been pulsing quietly beneath everything you have been doing and thinking and feeling and avoiding for your entire life. You have felt it. You have almost named it. And then the mind got busy again. But look closer, because here's what that signal actually is at the level of quantum mechanics. It is your consciousness operating in its natural state. Not the constructed, conditioned, reactive state that the mind has been trained into. The natural state. The state of the pure observer. The state in which consciousness is not producing reality by reacting to it, but is witnessing reality and, through the quality of that witnessing, allowing it to reorganize into higher coherence. And the Arcturian transmission is the recognition of that state, not the teaching of it, not the instruction toward it, the frequency of it, the transmission of what it feels like to be in the observer state, sent from a civilization that exists primarily in that state, received by the part of you that has always been in that state, even when you forgot it was there. This is where it gets precise. Because this is where you stop waiting for the message and recognize that you have already received it. Pause here again. This is the second observer practice, and this one goes deeper. Sit with your spine upright if you can. Take a breath. And now, instead of watching your body as you did before, watch your thoughts. Do not try to stop them. Do not try to slow them down. Simply watch them. Watch the mind produce its next thought, and then the next. And as you watch, notice something very specific. Notice who is watching, not what is being watched. Who is doing the watching? Because there is a thought, and there is the awareness of the thought. There is the mind producing its commentary, and there is something that observes the commentary without being the commentary. That something is what you are looking for, not a concept, not an idea, an actual, present, observable quality of awareness that is here right now, watching, without producing the next thought. Stay there. Watch from that position. Watch the mind try to name what you are doing. Watch it try to turn the observer into another thought, and then watch that thought too, from the same position. From the awareness that watches without becoming what it watches. This is the observer state. This is the signal. This is the transmission. And you are not receiving it from somewhere outside yourself. You are recognizing it as what you have always already been. Now look at what just happened. Because in that moment of watching, even if it was brief, even if the mind pulled you back almost immediately, something was different. Something that was in superposition for a moment collapsed into clarity. The diffuse, ambient presence of the observer state, which has been influencing your experience from the background of your awareness your entire life, became a specific, definite, recognizable thing. You saw it, and what has been seen cannot be unseen. Let us go deeper into the specific content of what this transmission is actually asking you to look at, because the Arcturian message is not generic. It is not a transmission for all of humanity in some abstract collective sense. It is a transmission that arrives with specific precision for the individual who receives it. And the precision of its arrival is determined by what that individual has been most consistently avoiding looking at. The signal always presses hardest at the exact point of greatest avoidance. Not because it is punishing, because that is where the superposition is densest. That is where the unobserved has accumulated the most ambient power. That is where the collapse of observation would produce the most immediate and profound reorganization. So let us ask the question directly. What have you been avoiding looking at? Not in a general sense, not in the comfortable, abstract sense of I have been avoiding my potential or I have been avoiding my purpose, in the specific, concrete, uncomfortable sense. What is the thing that pulses when everything gets quiet? What is the thing you reach for your phone to avoid feeling? What is the thing that shows up in your dreams in a form you can almost but never quite pin down? What is the thing that makes you feel homesick for a place you cannot name? You already know. You already see it. You just have not admitted it to yourself yet. And here is what the Arcturian transmission is telling you about that thing. It is not a problem. It is not a wound. It is not evidence of something wrong with you. It is the signal. It is the frequency of your own deepest nature pressing against the walls of your habitual attention. And the discomfort of carrying it unrecognized is not a sign that something is broken. It is a sign that something extraordinary is right with you, that you are sensitive enough, open enough, aware enough to receive what most people cannot yet perceive. The discomfort is not the thing itself. The discomfort is the pressure of the unobserved. The moment you look at it, the moment you bring the full quality of your conscious attention to it without flinching, the pressure releases. Not because the thing disappears, because it finally has the space to be what it actually is instead of what you have been afraid it might be. Let me show you this through a second parable, because the mechanics of this deserve to be seen from more than one angle. There was a woman named Mira who had a gift she had never used. Not a talent in the conventional sense, not a skill that could be listed on a resume, but a quality of perception that had been present since childhood. She could feel the truth of a situation before the facts of it became visible. She could sense the emotional reality beneath the surface of what people said. She could walk into a room and know, without being told, what was actually happening beneath the performance of what was happening. It was not mystical to her. It was simply how she experienced the world. And it had always made her feel profoundly alone. because the world she was perceiving was not the world that was being described to her. The world she felt was not the world that was being presented, and the gap between what she perceived and what was acknowledged as real had taught her slowly and thoroughly to distrust her own perception, to dismiss what she felt in favor of what was agreed upon, to explain away the signal in favor of the noise. She had spent her adult life becoming very good at not seeing what she saw. She had built elaborate internal structures to contain and suppress and redirect the quality of perception that was most essentially her own. She had become, in many ways, a masterwork of avoidance, and she was exhausted, not from doing too much, from the constant, sustained effort of not looking at the thing that was most clearly there. One day she was sitting alone in a garden in the early morning, before the world had fully started its noise, and she felt the signal, not as a new thing, as the familiar thing she had been avoiding for as long as she could remember. And this time, instead of redirecting her attention, instead of reaching for the next task or the next thought or the next explanation, she simply watched it. She brought the full quality of her attention to it. She looked at it directly, without judgment, without trying to name it, without trying to decide what it meant or what she was supposed to do with it. She simply watched. And what she saw, in the clear light of her own undefended attention, was not what she had been afraid of. She had been afraid that if she looked at it directly, she would see something broken, something damaged, something that confirmed the story she had been telling herself about why she could not fully trust her own perception. But what she saw was not broken. What she saw was extraordinary. She saw that the quality of perception she had been suppressing her entire life was not a liability. It was a capacity, a profound, precise, rare capacity to receive information at a frequency most people could not access. She saw that the loneliness she had felt was not the result of being wrong. It was the result of being tuned to a frequency that most of the people around her could not yet hear. She saw that the gap between what she perceived and what was acknowledged as real was not evidence of her dysfunction. It was evidence of her range, and in the moment of seeing this, something shifted. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, quietly, the way truth always arrives. The elaborate internal structures she had built to suppress her perception began slowly and without force to dissolve. Not because she dismantled them, because she saw through them. Because the act of clear observation revealed them for what they were, constructions built around an unexamined fear, and constructions cannot survive being seen clearly. They exist only in the space of the unobserved. She did not become a different person in that moment. She became more fully the person she had always been. The signal she had been suppressing became the signal she was finally willing to receive, and the world did not change. But the way she moved through it changed completely, because she was no longer spending the majority of her energy on not looking. She was free to look. And what she saw when she looked, clearly and without flinching, was more beautiful and more precise and more alive than anything she had been able to perceive through the distorting lens of her own avoidance. And you are not so different from Mira. You have a signal, you have a quality of perception, a frequency of awareness, a depth of knowing that has been pressing against the walls of your habitual attention for as long as you can remember, and you have been suppressing it, not because you chose to, because the world you grew up in did not have a framework for it, because the people around you could not confirm it, because the gap between what you perceived and what was acknowledged as real taught you, slowly and thoroughly, to distrust the most essential thing about yourself. And the Arcturian transmission is not asking you to believe something new. It is asking you to stop suppressing what you have always known. Has there been a moment in your life when you saw something clearly and it dissolved its power over you instantly? An illusion about yourself, a pattern you finally watched long enough to understand, a fear that collapsed the moment you stopped looking away from it? Leave that in the comments, because what you describe when you are willing to name it precisely is not just your story. It is a map for someone else who is standing at the exact edge you already crossed. Let us go deeper into the specific mechanics of how this suppression operates and what happens when it lifts. The mind, as we have established, is a filter. It is not the receiver. And the filter operates through a very specific mechanism. It operates through the constant production of the next thought. As long as the mind is producing thoughts, as long as there is a continuous stream of mental commentary running, the deeper signal cannot reach the surface of conscious awareness, not because the signal is blocked, because the noise of the mind fills the perceptual space. The signal is always there, the noise is louder. And here's the crucial point. The noise of the mind is not random. It is not simply the neutral background hum of a thinking organ doing its job. The noise of the mind is specifically patterned to avoid the signal, the particular content of your habitual thoughts, the specific loops your mind runs, the exact stories your internal commentary keeps returning to. These are not accidents. They are the architecture of your avoidance. They are the specific configuration of mental noise that your system has developed to keep the signal below the threshold of conscious attention. This is not a criticism. This is not a judgment. It is an observation, and it is an important one. Because once you see it, once you watch the mind doing this and recognize it for what it is, it loses its power to do it unconsciously. You can still think, you can still have the thoughts, but you are watching them from the observer position, and from that position you can see the pattern. You can see the avoidance architecture, and you can choose in any given moment to watch the signal instead of the noise. Here's what the Arcturian transmission describes as the primary characteristic of the current planetary shift. The energetic conditions of this period are specifically designed to thin the density of the mental filter, to make the noise less effective at drowning out the signal, to create enough perceptual transparency that the transmission can reach the surface of conscious awareness in people who have the capacity to receive it. Not all people simultaneously, not all at once, but a critical mass. A field of observers whose collective clarity creates a resonant environment in which the signal becomes easier and easier to recognize. And you are part of that field. The fact that you are here, the fact that something in you responded to these words before your mind had a chance to evaluate whether it should, the fact that you have stayed with this transmission through every layer of its unfolding, this is not accidental. This is resonance. And resonance does not lie. Watch what happens in your body when you hear this. Watch what happens in the part of you that is not the mind. Notice if there is a quality of recognition happening right now that is not the same as understanding. That recognition, that specific quality of knowing that arrives before comprehension, that is the signal. That is the transmission. That is the frequency of the Arcturian field making contact with the part of you that has always been capable of receiving it. You have already received the message. You have been receiving it your entire life. What is changing right now, in this moment, is that you are watching yourself receive it. And the act of watching, the act of bringing the full quality of your conscious attention to the reception, is what collapses the superposition. is what brings the signal from the background of your awareness into the foreground of your conscious experience, is what transforms the unobserved into the seen. Let us look at what this means for the specific texture of your daily life. Because this is not an abstract principle, this is something that operates in the most ordinary moments of your existence. Think about the last time you felt a wave of emotion that seemed to come from nowhere. You were doing something ordinary, standing in your kitchen, driving somewhere familiar, lying in bed in the dark, and something rose in your chest, not a reaction to anything specific, not triggered by any identifiable external event, just a feeling, vast and specific and carrying a weight that the moment itself could not account for. And what did you do with it? Did you watch it? Did you bring the full quality of your conscious attention to it and simply observe what it was? Or did you explain it away? Did you find a reason for it that the mind could accept? Did you redirect your attention to something more manageable? Most people redirect, not because they are incapable of watching, because they have never been shown that watching is an option, because the culture they grew up in provided no framework for the observer state, because the message they received from childhood onward was that feelings without identifiable causes are problems to be solved, not signals to be received. But those waves of emotion that seem to come from nowhere are not problems, they are transmissions. They are the signal pressing through the filter at the moments when the filter is thinnest, when the mind is not fully engaged in its usual noise, when the perceptual space is momentarily open, and they carry information, not in a form the mind can decode, in a form the body understands. A frequency that, if you watch it instead of suppressing it, begins to reveal something about the nature of what you are carrying. And here is what the Arcturian transmission is precise about. These waves of emotion are not random. They are not the residue of old wounds surfacing for processing, though that is the framework most people use to explain them. They are contact points, moments where the transmission from the broader field of intelligence that you are part of breaks through the density of your habitual attention and touches something real inside you. And the specific quality of the emotion, the exact texture of what you feel in those moments, is information about the nature of the transmission, about what is being communicated, about what is being activated in you. The grief that has no object is not depression. It is the feeling of a consciousness that remembers a state of wholeness and recognizes the gap between that state and the contracted reality of the habitual mind. The longing that has no name is not lack, it is the pull of the signal toward its source. The recognition that feels like memory is not imagination. It is consciousness contacting its own deeper nature through the channel of the emotional body. Look closer, here is the layer underneath that. The emotional body is not a byproduct of the thinking mind. It is not simply the felt experience of your thoughts. It is a distinct and primary instrument of perception. It is the receiver. And what it receives when it is not being suppressed by the noise of the mental filter is the frequency of the broader field of intelligence, the transmission from the Arcturian field. The signal that has been pulsing beneath your thoughts for as long as you can remember. And the reason the emotional body is the receiver rather than the mind is precisely because the emotional body operates below the threshold of conceptual thought. It receives frequency directly without the mediation of the mental filter. It is why the transmission arrives as a feeling before it arrives as an understanding. It is why the body responds to these words before the mind has evaluated whether it should. The emotional body is already in contact with the field. It has always been in contact. The mind is the last to know. This is the third observer practice, and this is the deepest one. Pause here, take a breath, and now bring your attention to your emotional body. Not to any specific emotion, to the field of your emotional experience as a whole, the entire texture of what you are feeling right now, not analyzing it, not naming it, simply watching it. Watching the way it moves, the way it shifts, the way it responds to your attention. Notice if there is something in the emotional field that has been there throughout this entire transmission. Something that has been quietly present beneath every thought you have had while listening. Something that you have been almost but not quite acknowledging. Watch it now. Without judgment, without trying to decide what it means, without trying to figure out what you are supposed to do with it. Simply watch. And as you watch, notice something very specific. Notice that the watching itself is changing it. Notice that the act of bringing your full, undefended attention to it is not intensifying it. It is clarifying it. The diffuse ambient presence of this thing in your emotional field is beginning to organize itself under the light of your observation. It is beginning to show you its shape, its texture, its specific quality of information. This is the signal. This is the transmission. This is the Arcturian message being received at the level it was always intended to be received. Not in the mind, in the body, in the emotional field, in the part of you that has always been in contact with the broader intelligence and has simply been waiting for your attention to turn toward it. Stay there. Watch what happens when you do not look away. Now here's what that reveals. The thing you just watched, the specific quality of what you felt when you brought your full attention to your emotional field without flinching, that is the core of the transmission. That is the frequency signature of your own deepest nature making contact with your conscious awareness. And it is not a one-time event. It is available to you in every moment that you choose to watch rather than react. In every moment that you bring the observer state to your own experience rather than being swept away by the noise of the mental filter. This is what the Arcturian message is actually about. Not a cosmic event happening to you from the outside, an activation happening in you from the inside. The recognition of the observer state as your natural condition. The remembrance of what you are beneath the construction of the habitual mind. The collapse of the superposition, the bringing of the unobserved into the full light of conscious awareness. That is the message. That is the transmission. That is what has been encoded in the fabric of your experience since before you can remember. And here is the part that changes everything. Once you have seen this, once you have recognized the observer state as your natural condition rather than a practice you have to maintain, something shifts in the way you relate to every experience. Because you are no longer inside the experience, being swept along by it, reacting to it, producing the next thought in response to the last one. You are watching it. You are the awareness in which the experience is occurring. And from that position, from the observer position, everything that was previously running your reality from the shadows of the unobserved is suddenly visible, suddenly specific, suddenly available to the transforming power of clear seeing. The fear you've been reacting from without knowing it. The belief about yourself that has been operating as a lens through which you interpret every experience. The story you have been telling about why certain things are not possible for you. the pattern you keep repeating without understanding why. All of it becomes visible. All of it collapses from superposition into a specific, definite thing that can be seen. And what can be seen clearly loses its power to operate from the shadows. This is not a gradual process. This is not something you have to work toward over years of practice. This is what happens in the moment of genuine observation. Not the idea of observation, not the intellectual understanding of the observer state. The actual, present, embodied act of watching your own experience without flinching. In that moment, the transformation is not a future event. It is the present reality. The seeing is the transformation. That is not belief. That is quantum mechanics. Let us look at what this means for the specific thing you have been avoiding. Because we are coming to the center of this now. We are coming to the place where the transmission has been pointing since the beginning. There is something you have been pretending is not there. Not because you do not know it is there. You know exactly where it is. You know the specific quality of the discomfort that arises when you get too close to it. You know the exact thoughts the mind produces to redirect your attention away from it. You know the specific behaviors you engage in to keep your attention occupied elsewhere. You have become very skilled at the architecture of this avoidance. It has taken years to build, and it has cost you something. It has cost you the signal. It has cost you the transmission. It has cost you the full, clear, undefended experience of your own deepest nature. And here is what the Arcturian message is telling you about that thing. It is not what you think it is. The story you've been telling yourself about why you cannot look at it, that story is not the truth. It is the filter. It is the noise of the habitual mind, protecting itself from the transformation that genuine observation would bring. Because the mind as a system is invested in its own continuation. And the observer state, the genuine observer state, is the one thing that the mind cannot survive intact. Not because the mind is destroyed by the observer state, because the mind, seen clearly from the observer position, is revealed as a construction, a useful, functional construction, but a construction nonetheless. Not the ground of your being, not the source of your intelligence, not the receiver of the transmission, the filter. And the thing you have been avoiding looking at is the thing that, when seen clearly, reveals the filter as a filter. It is the specific point in your experience where the construction is most visible, where the gap between the habitual mind and the deeper intelligence is most palpable, where the signal is pressing hardest against the walls of your avoidance. Look at it now, not with the mind, with the observer, with the awareness that watches without becoming what it watches. Bring the full quality of your conscious attention to the thing you have been avoiding and simply watch. Watch what it actually is, not what the mind has been telling you it is. Watch what happens to it under the light of your undefended attention. Watch whether it is what you feared or whether it is something else entirely. Because here is what the Arcturian transmission has been precise about from the beginning. What you are avoiding looking at is the exact thing that transforms when you do. Not eventually, not after a period of processing or integration. In the moment of genuine observation itself. The seeing is the transformation, and what transforms is not the thing. What transforms is your relationship to it. What transforms is the power it has had to operate from the shadows of the unobserved. What transforms is the story the mind has been telling about why you cannot look at it. What transforms is the distance between the construction and the signal, between the filter and the receiver. between the habitual mind and the observer. You were never meant to look away. That is the core of the Arcturian message, not as a command, as a recognition. You were designed to watch. Your consciousness, at its most fundamental level, is the observer, not the reactor, not the filter, not the habitual mind. The observer, the awareness that watches without becoming what it watches. The presence that is here in every moment, regardless of what the mind is producing, regardless of what the emotional body is feeling, regardless of what the circumstances of your life are presenting. The awareness that was here before the first thought and will be here after the last one. And the signal that has been pulsing beneath your thoughts for as long as you can remember is not coming from somewhere outside you. It is the sound of your own deepest nature, the frequency of the observer state, the transmission of a quality of consciousness that exists in you and has always existed in you and has never once stopped pulsing, even in the moments when you were most thoroughly convinced that you were nothing more than the noise. Here's what the Arcturian field specifically describes as the 3 layers of the transmission, not as a sequential process, as 3 simultaneous recognitions that arrive together in the moment of genuine observation. The first recognition is this: you are not the thoughts you are having. You are the awareness in which the thoughts arise. This is not a new idea, but there is a profound difference between having heard this idea and actually watching it happen. Actually being in the observer position and watching the mind produce its thoughts from a place that is not the mind, from the place that watches the mind, from the awareness that is here before, during, and after every thought. When you watch this happen, when you actually observe the distinction between the thought and the awareness of the thought, something collapses. The identification with the mind as the source of your intelligence begins to dissolve. Not because you stop thinking, because you stop being only the thinker, you become also the watcher. And the watcher is a fundamentally different position in reality than the thinker. The second recognition is this: the emotional body is a receiver, not a reactor. The feelings you have been experiencing as reactions to circumstances are, at a deeper level, transmissions from the broader field of intelligence. They are frequency information. They are the signal pressing through the filter. And when you watch them from the observer position, when you bring the full quality of your conscious attention to the emotional field without trying to explain it or suppress it or resolve it, the information they carry becomes accessible, not as a concept, as a direct knowing, as a quality of awareness that reorganizes your understanding of your own experience from the inside. The third recognition is this: the thing you have been avoiding looking at is not a problem. It is the location of your greatest capacity. The specific point in your experience where the signal is pressing hardest is the specific point where the collapse of observation would produce the most profound reorganization. Where the superposition is densest is where the transformation is most available. What you have been protecting yourself from looking at is not the wound. It is the door, and it opens from the inside. It opens the moment you look at it directly, the moment you bring the observer state to the exact thing you have been most consistently avoiding, the moment you stop looking away. Now watch what happens in your body when you hear these 3 recognitions stated together. Watch what happens in the part of you that is not the mind. Notice if there is a quality of something settling, something organizing, something that has been in superposition beginning to collapse into clarity. That is the transmission being received. That is the Arcturian message making contact at the level it was always intended to reach. Not the intellect, the observer, the awareness that watches without becoming what it watches. Let us bring this to the specific texture of how you move through your life from this point forward. Because the observer state is not a retreat from life. It is not a detached, uninvolved watching from a safe distance. It is the most fully engaged position available to you. Because from the observer position, you see clearly. And clear seeing is the only force that transforms without resistance. When you are in the reactor position, when you are inside your experience being swept along by it, you are responding to reality as though it is fixed, as though the circumstances you are facing are solid, determined, inevitable. And from that position, your options are limited to how you respond to what is fixed. You can resist it, you can accept it, you can try to change it, but you are always responding to something that feels fundamentally outside your influence. When you are in the observer position, when you are watching your experience from the awareness that is not the experience, you are in contact with reality at the level at which it is actually operating, at the quantum level, at the level of probability fields and observer effects and the collapse of superposition into specific form. And from that position, you are not responding to what is fixed. You are participating in what is becoming, because what you observe at the most fundamental level, you change. And the quality of your observation, the frequency of your attention, the clarity of your seeing, these are not passive. They are the most active thing about you. They are the mechanism through which consciousness participates in the creation of reality. This is the Arcturian understanding of the observer as creator. Not creator in the sense of force or control or manifestation through effort. Creator in the sense of the consciousness that watches clearly and, through the quality of that watching, allows reality to reorganize into higher coherence. The observer does not make things happen. The observer sees what is actually happening beneath the noise, beneath the constructed narrative, beneath the superposition of the unobserved. And in the seeing, reality reorganizes. Because reality is not fixed, reality is a probability field. And the observer is the mechanism through which probability collapses into form. You are that mechanism. You have always been that mechanism. The signal that has been pulsing beneath your thoughts for as long as you can remember is the recognition of this. The transmission that has been pressing through the filter of your habitual mind is the frequency of this understanding. And the moment you received it, the moment something in you recognized it before your mind could evaluate whether it should, was the moment the superposition began to collapse. Was the moment the transmission made contact. Was the moment the message was received. Not in the future, now, in this moment. As you watch these words land in the body that has been receiving this frequency your entire life, there is a question worth sitting with here. Not a rhetorical question, a genuine one. An invitation to look at something specific. When did you first feel the signal? Not when did you first hear about this kind of idea. When did you first feel the specific quality of awareness that these words are pointing at? When did you first have the experience of watching your own mind from a position that was not the mind? When did you first feel the transmission pressing through the filter? When did you first know, in a way that the mind could not account for, that something more was happening beneath the surface of your life than the surface could contain? that moment was not random. And it was not the beginning. It was the first moment you were conscious enough to notice what had always been happening. The first moment the signal broke through clearly enough to be recognized. And everything that has happened since, every experience of unexplainable knowing, every wave of emotion that seemed to come from nowhere, every dream that felt like a transmission, every moment of looking at the night sky and feeling something that felt less like wonder and more like recognition, all of it has been the transmission continuing. The signal continuing to pulse, the frequency continuing to press through the filter, the message continuing to be received at the level of the body even when the mind was too busy to notice. And now you are noticing, now you are watching, and the watching is the transformation. Share what you saw when you looked. In the comments below, share the specific thing you noticed when you brought your attention to your emotional field during this transmission. Share the quality of what you felt when you watched without flinching. Share the moment of recognition, however brief, however subtle, that happened somewhere in the space of these words. Not because sharing it makes it more real, because your experience might be the exact confirmation someone else needs to trust what they have been feeling. Because the field of observers whose collective clarity amplifies the signal for everyone is built one act of honest seeing at a time. And what you share when you are willing to look clearly is not just your experience. It is a transmission. It is a frequency. It is the signal pressing through the filter and reaching someone else who has been almost but not quite willing to look. Type in the comments, "I see it now," and it cannot unsee itself. Not as an affirmation, as a declaration of what just happened, as the acknowledgement that something that was in superposition has been observed, has been collapsed into clarity, has been seen. And what has been seen cannot be unseen. Now let us look at the integration principle, because this is where the transmission becomes a practice rather than a single event, where the observer state becomes not a peak experience but a way of moving through the world. The integration principle is this: every moment of your life is an invitation to watch rather than react. Every circumstance that arises, every emotion that moves through you, every thought the mind produces, every pattern that repeats, every relationship dynamic that plays out, every moment of discomfort or joy or confusion or clarity, each of these is a quantum event. Each of these is a probability field presenting itself to your observation. And the quality of your observation, the degree to which you are watching from the observer position, rather than reacting from the reactor position, determines what collapses into form, determines what becomes specific and definite and available to the transforming power of clear seeing, determines what continues to operate in superposition, influencing your experience from the shadows of the unobserved. And the practice is not complicated, it is simple. It is the simplest thing available to you. In any moment, in any circumstance, you can ask yourself one question: am I watching this, or am I inside it? Am I in the observer position, seeing clearly from the awareness that watches without becoming what it watches? Or am I in the reactor position, being swept along by the experience, producing the next thought in response to the last one, generating the next reaction in response to the last circumstance? And if the answer is that you are in the reactor position, the practice is not to judge that, not to try to force yourself into the observer position. The practice is to watch the reactor, to bring the observer state to the experience of being in the reactor position, to watch the mind producing its reactions from the place that watches the mind. Because the observer state is not something you achieve by suppressing the reactor. It is something you recognize by watching the reactor clearly. The moment you are watching the reactor, you are already in the observer position. The watching is the observer state. The seeing is the transformation. This is the integration principle. This is how the Arcturian transmission becomes not a single event, but an ongoing frequency relationship, not a message you received once. A quality of consciousness you are continuously recognizing as your own. A way of moving through the world that is not detached or distant or uninvolved, but more fully present, more completely engaged, more genuinely alive than anything available from within the reactor position. Because from the observer position, you are in contact with reality as it actually is. Not as the filter interprets it, not as the habitual mind constructs it, as it actually is. As a probability field, as a quantum event, as something that is continuously responding to the quality of your observation. And the world you see from that position is not the same world you see from the reactor position. It is the same world, but it is seen clearly, and clarity changes everything. Here is the empowerment close. And it is not a performance of empowerment, it is a recognition of what you have just done. You came to this transmission carrying something. You have been carrying it for as long as you can remember, a signal beneath your thoughts. A frequency pressing through the filter, a quality of knowing that arrived before comprehension. And you brought your attention to it. You watched it. You did not look away. You brought the observer state to the exact thing you have been most consistently avoiding, and you watched what happened. And what happened is not what you were afraid of. What happened is that the superposition began to collapse. The unobserved began to be seen. The signal began to be received consciously, not just at the level of the body, but at the level of the awareness that watches the body, the level of the observer. And in doing that, you did something that most people never do. Not because they cannot, because they have never been shown that it is an option. You watched your own experience without flinching. You brought the full quality of your conscious attention to the thing that has been pressing against the walls of your habitual attention your entire life, and you let it be seen. You let it collapse from superposition into clarity. You let the transmission be received at the level it was always intended to reach. That is not a small thing. That is the most important thing you can do with your attention. That is the observer as the most powerful position in the universe. Not because it controls, because it sees clearly. And clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. The Arcturian message was never out there. It was never waiting for you to find it. It was encoded in the fabric of your experience before you arrived. It has been pulsing in the signal beneath your thoughts since before you can remember. It has been pressing through the filter in every unexplainable feeling, every dream that felt like a transmission, every moment of recognition that arrived before comprehension. It has been the quality of awareness that watched the mind produce its noise without being the noise. It has been the observer. It has been you, at the level beneath the construction, at the level beneath the filter, at the level of what you actually are when you stop looking away. You were never meant to look away, and now you have stopped. And what has been seen cannot be unseen. And what cannot be unseen begins in this moment and in every moment that follows, in which you choose the observer position over the reactor position to reorganize, to recalibrate, to collapse from the superposition of the unobserved into the clarity of the seen, to transform. Not because you forced it, not because you manifested it, because you watched it, because you brought the full quality of your conscious attention to it, and you did not look away. The observer is the most powerful position in the universe. You are the observer. You have always been the observer, and now you know it. Not as a concept, as a recognition, as a frequency that has been received at the level of the body, the emotional field, and the awareness that watches both. As the signal finally seen clearly for what it has always been. What you watch, you change. What you avoid controls you. You have stopped avoiding, and reality has no choice but to respond. If this transmission reached something in you that has been waiting to be reached, stay in this field. Stay in the frequency of clear seeing. Come back to the observer state in every moment you can find it. When the noise of the day has settled and you find yourself in the quiet, return to this. Watch it again from that stillness. Or send it to someone who has been circling something they cannot quite look at directly, because sharing this creates something that neither of you can create alone. It gives them permission to look, and in giving that permission, your own clarity deepens. Two observers seeing clearly amplify the field for each other in a way that solitary watching cannot. What one person sees alone, two people confirm as real, and share this with someone who has been almost but not quite willing to look. Because the field of observers whose collective clarity amplifies the signal for everyone is built one act of honest seeing at a time, and you are part of that field now. You have always been part of that field. Now you see it, and what has been seen cannot be unseen. You were never meant to look away, and you are not looking away anymore. The quantum field responds to the quality of your observation, and that principle goes deeper than most people realize. The video called "The Quantum Field Only Responds." When you completely stop trying to control, it takes this exactly where this transmission leaves off, showing you what happens in the field the moment effort dissolves and pure watching begins. That is the next layer of what you just touched.